relative to the district's proposed 2026-27 budget and tax rate first.
Good evening. Okay, tonight, this is our public hearing. We will review all the budgets and the tax rates in comparison on the tax rates to the prior year as well. So this first page, we have our proposed tax rate summary. It presents our proposed 26-27 tax rates compared to our adopted 25-26 and the difference. So you'll see that the only change this year is to our Tier 1 M&O tax rate, which has been certified by TEA, and that will go down to 62.54 cents per $100 of taxable value, and that is a 0.0068 cent reduction compared to last year's tax rate. At the top here, I do have the assumptions that were used in the template to help calculate the tax rate before it went to TEA for certification. So the budget and tax rates were estimated using a brick and mortar ADA of 4,385.958, which is 94.5% of 4,641, which is our projected enrollment for the year. The TEVA ADA used 24,146.929 ADA, and you'll see the difference of our certified taxable values from 2026 compared to last year's 2025. They were slightly higher, like 1.7522% higher than last year. So that did, again, I think I said this in a previous meeting, but it did not exceed 2.5%. So it did not put us in a situation where our tax rate would be further compressed, which is a good thing. So we didn't give up some state funds due to that. Are any questions about the proposed tax rates for the year? Okay, this next slide, this is our legislatively required discussion on the funding lag. We've done this ever since HB3 was passed in June of 2019. And so each year they want you to have the discussion about the difference in how the local value and the local share of property taxes is calculated under new law compared to old law. So that old law, we always used the prior year's certified taxable values to calculate the current year. So it was always that funding lag, which usually in times of increasing taxable values, it resulted in lower local share and higher state revenue. So in 2019 and 20, with that new HB3 law, they changed to where we would move to using our current value in the current year. So that doesn't, I mean, we have current values by the time we start our year, but they are not certified to the state until later in the year by our appraisal districts, the county appraisal districts. So there are chances where those can be adjusted by the comptroller during the year that we've used to calculate them on. So I always want to make that aware to you, and I believe last year our taxable values had gone down compared to the previous year, so that actually would have lowered, it actually lowered our local share compared to the old law. But this year we're back to kind of the way the trend has been, so we had increasing. So under new law, you'll see that our local share is higher, and so that would result in lower state funding compared to if it had been calculated under old law. So just wanted to make sure that I went over that. This is one of the audit checklists to make sure that we discuss this, and so we can kind of have that general understanding how those taxable values play in under this new law, which has been here for quite a few years now. From there, we're going to move on to our proposed budgets. Under several funds, we'll have our INS debt service fund, we'll have our food service child nutrition fund, we'll have the general fund that are required to be adopted by the board each year. Also, in conjunction with the general fund, we have our state comp ed budget, which is part of the general fund budget, but it has to be kind of isolated out and identified so that you can see what we're adopting and proposing for our state comp ed budget for the year. So we'll get into our debt service fund first, and there's been no change since the last presentation on this. After Friday's approval to move ahead with a resolution to defease about as close to $2 million in extra principal payment, during this fiscal year. We built this in, and you'll see that we're adopting a proposed deficit of almost 1.4 million, and that's so that we can spend down that fund balance. So it had gotten up to about 3.7, 3.8, and so we're going to pull that down closer to that $2 million mark. So I think it was about 3 years ago we did the same thing. So kind of as our existing state allotment increases with increasing TIVA enrollment, that's kind of what generates that extra fund balance. So I try to keep a close watch on that. So our total revenues proposed are $9,167,974, and our proposed debt service expenditures, including the defeasance payment, are $10,566,500. Any questions on the debt service fund? We'll move on to the food service fund. If you'll remember, probably about 2 years back, and then the previous 2 to 5 years, really, we have struggled with having excess fund balance in the food service fund due to some of the additional federal funding we received during COVID. During that time, and previously, you were allowed only 3 months of reserves in your fund balance. Now TDA has actually increased that. They allow you to have 6 months, it helps a lot, but now we're kind of back in the situation, all of those COVID dollars are gone, we're back to the way things used to be, and we don't have, large amounts of funding in this fund like it always was, in the way it really is intended to be. So for this 26-27 year, we have our local revenues, state revenues, and federal revenues. Our local revenues are generated by our paid lunches. State revenues are generated by, we have TRS on behalf. It's a matching for part of the payroll TRS contributions. And also we have just a TDA matching fund. It's about $10,000. So there's only $12,500 in state funding we receive in the food service budget. And federal revenues are our largest component of budget because those are our free reduced claims through the USDA and TDA each month. So those are for all of the funding we get for free and reduced, as well as a small portion for the paid funding as well. So our total revenues for food service are $2,189,500. Our expenses exceed that a little bit by $2,598,704. Our 6 months of fund balance that we're allowed to have are right around that $800,000. So we do need to spend down some, but I believe last year we had a similar level, and we earned a little bit more than we had anticipated. So we're kind of in the same boat. We need to still keep spending down a little bit to keep under that threshold. So our revenues over expenditures are negative $409,204. Which would bring our fund balance down to $473,556. This also includes, the raises are already incorporated into this we have a handful, 5 food service workers that are in-district workers, and the rest are contracted through Chartwells. So any questions about food service fund? If not, we will move on ahead to our general fund. I'm not going to go line by line because we did this in the last few budget workshops. However, I do want to point out the changes. The only changes that have been made to this budget compared to what was presented on Friday are the 2% raises have already been baked into each person's actual assignment, and also the incentives as well, and allocated amongst the functions. Also, the $472 district contribution for TRS Active Care has been included already on those specific assignments. And on the second page, you will see, I'm going to get that a little bigger. In this bottom section here, you'll see that we have a proposed deficit budget of negative $43,508. Those are hard numbers to read. But so that's the number I want you to keep in mind. But down here, I have outlined the fund balance line items that are being proposed, and of course the compensation has already been approved, and how that adds up and compares to that number. So we have our approved 26-27 approved compensation package, which totals $5,876,721. Only, I believe, it's $1,008,000 is recurring in nature, because that's the piece that relates directly to the 2% increase. Well, that and the increase of the contribution, that $44 additional contribution. But the gross majority of that relates to the incentives. Those are, approved year by year and non-recurring in nature. So they don't build in and roll forward each year. Our maintenance projects that were presented by Mr. Tucker, that were detailed in previous presentations, those total $5,241,300. Those are also already up here and allocated in Function 51. The big construction projects that we have that are part of this budget, two of which are carrying forward from the current 25-26 budget. The first one of those relates to the junior high athletic complex. That last year, in the 25-26 budget, I believe we had approved 60% of that total cost estimate because that's what we had thought could possibly be done. Well, it didn't. So that full $6,250,000 project, and that's actually based on bids plus architecture and engineering cost. So $6,250,000. Our bus barn phase 1 has remaining costs, that bid out at a little over $1.7 million. So we've already paid, I believe, 2 pay apps on that. So we have $1,350,000 left for that phase, which should complete here, hopefully by around December. So those are existing and rolled forward and updated. The 2 new on this list are the $8 million for a proposed high school covered practice field, which I believe you'll see more plans about that today. And we also have bus barn phase 2 and operations paving, which is about $500,000 estimate to finish out that area, painting, whatever may need to go into that existing structure to tie it in aesthetically and functionally with the new phase that's being added. So with all that being said, like I said, we have a proposed deficit budget of $27,043,508. Based on these numbers, you take these first 2 columns here, the $42 million and the $52 million, add those together, get 20% of that, and that's how you calculate our required minimum fund balance of $19 million. Our 25-26 beginning fund balance is just shy of $60 million. We had a $16 million deficit budget this year. We're looking to only decrease that actually by about $5.7 million. So by the end of our 25-26 year, we should end about $54 million. So then you take that 54, reduce the $27 million deficit, and get to a projected ending 26-27 fund balance of $27,028,877. Still almost $8 million over our required. And I will say, I was talking to Mr. Martin earlier, even with that, we know that there are areas, especially in our revenue budgets, where we have conservatively budgeted. We know on interest income we're conservatively budgeted, as well as our oversight fee. So most likely, while this is our official projected ending fund balance, will most likely still be $30 million or a little higher by the end of that next year. Of course, we also still have this big project to bid out, so that's kind of an unknown too on the expense side. Any questions on the general fund that you'd like to have clarified or changed at this point? If not, we'll move on to our last budget to go over. And like I said, this is the state comp ed budget, and it is part of the general fund budget. So all of these numbers come out of the general fund. Section 29.081B2 of the Education Code requires that we identify these costs and that the board approves a separate state comp ed budget officially. However, starting with the 25-26 year, there's no longer a requirement to spend. There's not a required spend of state comp ed. Previously, we had to spend 55% of the revenue that we earned on those at-risk kids. They've removed that spending requirement. However, I'm still presenting it in a way that you see how much of the allotment we're still budgeting. So these students, these are all academically at-risk students, and it's important that we, keep the progress moving forward with them so that even though there's no requirement, it's still important. It's a priority. So I have, in our revenues, we will earn $20,132,538 for State Comp Ed, and we have the split between the brick and mortar and TIVA. So of that, we're proposing a budget for State Comp Ed to spend $11,507,248, and that amounts to 57.16%. So even if we still had the spending requirement of the 55%, we're exceeding that, which I think last year, it's usually with between 56 and 58% each year that we typically approved. Any questions about anything or any budget you'd like to go back and look at?
The one-time expenditures, the bottom here, everything except the personnel thing, you've got 21 million. Roughly, 21 million. And we still have a $27 million deficit. So even if you add that back in, we're 6 million over.
With with the raises, yes. And I think that was the same situation in 25, 26,
Right, I
yeah.
get that, but I'm just thinking, I'm looking forward to, like, there's gotta be some point where we're going, okay, we're gonna put some money back in our fund balance.
Yes.
And if we do raises and
Mhm.
incentives next year, when are we ever gonna get back to the point where we're putting money back into our fund balance?
Yeah, which each year,
Even if we don't do any maintenance projects, which
Right.
we're gonna do,
right,
we've gotta do something, we gotta figure out a way that somewhere we're gonna get you back up.
right. And we haven't, I know that last year and this year, we did larger maintenance, bigger one-time things. That's an area I think we've done about 4 or 5 million the last 2 years each. So, yeah, you're right. Those are areas to think about, as well as, we're even though we've proposed these, this 25, 26 year will be the first year that we probably, register, where we reduce that fund
We've got
balance.
some
But
bigger projects
yes,
out as well,
mhm,
that, guys, there's gonna be a day if we don't start peaching back now, that we're gonna be back to squeezing to keep our
Right.
mandated fund balance.
and we can look at, how we approach and handle the oversight fee, how we budget that. We're not budgeting fully for it, which is why we always still add some back. I don't.
What is that? I mean, is that
You would have to
a
increase,
million? Is that a 2 million number? Is
it
that-
depends on enrollment.
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying though, is, I mean, what's our cushion in here?
Yeah.
I mean, are we looking at, for this year's sake, are we gonna,
Oh.
what we budgeted to what we're actually receiving, are we talking $1 million, are we talking $2 million?
Oh, 4 to 5
6
million,
million?
4 to 5,
Okay.
most likely.
So that's the cushion that we need to, in the back of our mind,
Yeah,
because when I start looking at that, and go, man, we're still $6 million in
Mm-hmm.
the hole if we don't do a maintenance project any.
right. That's why I was saying this projecting ending of 27 is in reality because of the cushions we have built in.
So about 5 million.
It'd be
$5
about-
million.
Yeah, it will be at least 30 million. And we should, even this projected for 25, 26, that projection was based on that we will spend 100% of every expense budgeted
Right,
and encumbered, and that won't be the case. I know that,
We know
for
that,
sure
but at the
too.
same time-
So there's, this 5.7 million will likely be a little less than that as well, which we'll know very soon, and here in a few weeks after final payrolls and everything for the year. So, but you're right, 100%.
Just something to think about.
So the 5.8 million, the first line on the bottom, that is not the excess, like the 2%, the 472, the higher incentives, that is the total compensation package, right?
That's the total cost of the increase in compensation.
That's the
Yes, that's
total
the increase. No, total compensation is up here
Right, that's what it,
much higher, yeah.
yes.
That's what
Okay.
was approved, yeah. Just the increase, it's the 2% part.
No, I was just going to answer your initial question. Your question was, when are we going to get to a point where we can still take care of our people and then also without going further out on a limb, fund balance wise, well, obvious answer, the state's gotta figure this out because House Bill 2 and all the different House bills and Senate bills they put out, they're flawed from the get-go, from inception. So for instance, if they say, okay, teacher X has gotta make this amount, they never factor in all the TRS on behalf and all the taxes and the different pieces the districts have to
Yeah,
pick
all
up.
the- which is about
So you're in a
15%.
hole before you ever get the initial money.
Every district, not just us.
So I don't know. I mean, that's kind of fantasy land, I
Well,
guess.
I had a quick question, Jay. We'll see if this works or not. The 14 million, if we didn't have that this year, and I'm just, the junior high athletic complex and the practice field, those are one-time expenditures. I know we've got other stuff on the horizon, but probably not to that amount,
Right.
the 14 million. That totally changes. That would answer your question there, wouldn't it? If that 14 million is
Yeah.
not gonna come out
No,
any of the years, the next
Right.
5, then we're building back that budget you're talking about.
well, but I'm just, oh, go ahead, finish your thought.
Well, while we're still doing the even if the next 5 years, we said we're gonna spend that exact amount on compensation. Now, if we wanna do 2%, that number keeps growing.
Sure,
I
it
know
depends,
that.
yeah.
Compound interest, but the 14 million, if that's not in there, we would be just fine right now and still putting money back in that budget. Is that
You
correct?
got $13 million, that's the deficit. You got 27.
So you're asking when will we start paying off that 13?
Well, yeah, because you're spending it.
We're building it back.
When
You
do we
keep
not
pulling
assume
it
a
out, keep
deficit?
pulling it out, eventually,
Well, when the big projects kind of slow down, number one, there's always going to be something. There's always going to be buses, always going to be some
Right.
maintenance projects. There's always going to be some kind of compensation package. But you're right. I mean, when those one-time huge construction projects slow down, we will, because we do intentionally build in some cushions here. And I think I think we try to be thoughtful about those, you know, and in light
Yeah, and
about that.
I'm good with what we're spending it
Yeah.
on. I'm just concerned that, you know, if we look at it right now and you take out the one-time expenditures except for our teachers or our staff,
Right,
you know, we still have a deficit budget, which is fine.
yeah.
I don't have a problem with that, but the cushion that we spoke of is
It's
the
got to be
difference.
enough,
That-
yeah,
That brings it back to $2 million.
yeah.
I will say this, I read an article this week that 67% of districts in Texas are passing deficit budgets, and they're not doing any of those things.
Right.
You got one time. Zero.
And no maintenance projects,
No maintenance projects, no raises.
yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah.
2/3.
I don't know how the other districts are doing it, compared to you, but
Well, you sent the deal for Carthage is cutting salaries, whatever, stipends or whatever.
Well, there's,
yeah, they cut, you know, we're contributing $472, and I guess they were contributing, I wanna say around $300, and they just told them all, we're not contributing, cut it all.
have to go to
$300
the,
a month
$300 more a month
Cut.
for every teacher.
salary.
Yeah, every staff
Basically.
member, yeah.
Yeah, if you want insurance, it costs
So
Yeah.
you're talking 3,600, you know, dang near $4,000 a year, they're taking a hit on, which is tough
Yep,
for a teacher.
yep. So, anyway.
all right. Thank
Thank
y'all
you.
very much, appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Ms. Brown.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Correct.
Where at?
All right, so we have covered, go ahead, you got anything else?
was just saying, in answer to your question, like not an
Yeah.
answer, but a thought. I know we budget year to year, I know we have ideas out there, but have we ever laid out a 2-year, 5-year, 10-year plan that they're gonna change and things are gonna come up, take it off and move? But like if you had in the next 5 years, these are the projects we wanna see happen, every year when you're looking at budgeting, like, okay, well, maybe we can do that this year because it doesn't put us in a deficit budget, but we also know in 2 years we plan to, like that way.
Kind of have that, I mean, I don't think it's
So-
too formal.
Like, you
Can-
know it's gonna change.
Kind of, sort of. We kind of, Mr. Tucker and myself and my team, we look at things, my board that suggests things, we look at things that we need to get done, right? They need to be either fixed or built or whatever. We put them on a list. And if, we may go through a meeting and say, okay, we know for a fact this one's gonna be 27, 28, and we slot it down there, so that's your 2 years out. So we will take that list and just put them in different places. With all the conversation we've had this budget cycle, that's why I said last meeting, I guess it was Friday or whenever it was, hey, let's take Fieldhouse, press box, let's push that down the road a little bit. I told the architects, just put that on the back burner, let's don't get rid of it, but put it on the back burner, we're gonna revisit that. I need these couple of projects we're gonna have started going and finished.
And I feel like we've done good, like Jay does, the 3 to 5 year planning, and some of this is from that 3 to 5 plan finally coming out. It's like, we saw this day coming, but we do need to do something for the future.
Well, one thing also
Parking lots and everything.
that we
Agreed.
did in 25, 26 was buy 10 buses. We're not on buses this year, probably next year, but, you know, anyways, full forethought there. Any public comment on the budget or proposed tax rate? No comments on budget or proposed tax rate for the public?
We've got a few minutes. Do we want to have, Mr. Tucker, are you prepared to walk through some of your maintenance projects? I know we've looked at it once, but
Yes, sir.
you want to take a few minutes, 10, 15 minutes, look at that? They went up on the, roughly 400 for the year. 150, 250, something.
Is there anything specific you guys want to walk through or have a conversation
You wanna
about?
Just hit the
Large ticket items on your
Yeah.
maintenance list?
Yeah, sure.
I know we've got the chiller, that was a big one.
It was a big one, yes, sir. In fact, sir,
That's about half of it.
it was pretty big.
Hey, Matt,
yeah.
if you would, go through the, like Jay said, the chiller, and you guys had asked us to go back and look at conventional versus stay in chiller.
Yeah.
We've got our data back from that, and I think that if you were here Friday, you saw that, but, yeah, it was
Yeah.
almost double.
1.3.
Not to mention that didn't even go into the scope of how long it's gonna take to do that.
Do it, yeah.
And then the next question, do we have power sources to get that? And so-
Yeah. The East chiller upgrade, Joe Hart and his engineering team got involved, came and did a full assessment. They looked through the original prints plus the additional prints where the building was added on. You know, to go through and upgrade the existing chiller system, replacing one of the 2 chillers, pumps, boilers, all the fan coils throughout the classroom. Of course, originally and that's what I was doing a minute ago, was looking through my numbers. The original assessment was valued at $2,095,500. But, that wasn't including any, contingency or engineering fees or anything like that. So that's why the number is, $800,000 more than originally budgeted. But it kind of gives you an assurance, that rubber stamp, that engineer did his part instead of us just saying we want to replace this part. The other option, of course, was double, and, that's going to take a lot more work. And I don't know if they can do that in a summer break, because you're talking about pulling all the cooling lines out and putting, I didn't have that figure in front of me, but the amount of copper lines that they're going to have to install in that building is a lot. I mean, it was, 20-something thousand feet, so, just talking to a couple different people, getting their ideas, the chiller system is the way to go. It's going to be, when operating like it should, the most energy efficient system we have. And also, that did have some control, a cost built in to help get the control system under where it does operate like it should and function and stuff. So, if we wanted to break this project into two cycles, you know, that's an option. If we wanted to do that, I mean, we could focus on the classrooms, the fan cools.
To me, I guess the biggest deal is, when are you planning to do it? I mean, because if it works through this summer, it's working right now. I mean, Hallville, East Texas, we could need it in October, November. So,
Yeah.
when do you, I mean, do you
Well-
wait until February to do it, or January?
Well, having a conversation with the engineer and architect was, I mean, ultimately, you would probably get started here pretty quick. Some of these components, you don't have to wait till summertime. You know, those pumps, you know, there's two chiller pumps, there's two, you know, hot water pumps. So you could actually replace those. They work in conjunction with together. So a lot of that stuff you could probably do now, you know, end of October, November, December, you could change one of the chillers, you know, outside. So you could get a lot of the components up and changed out and ready for that summer break, you know. It's gonna be a busy summer. They would be there, you know, all summer long, you know, so.
Just say plan it where it least impacts classes.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah, they would definitely do that. So I think any of the classroom equipment would wait till summer.
How long will the building be down when they do it?
I think once you got to a summer setting, they would, you know, of course, we hadn't got that far in conversation, but I would think and assume that they would like start upstairs and get the upstairs done and just go classroom to classroom, you know. If you had a wreck out crew that came in and just started wrecking out equipment and had a crew behind them installing new equipment, you know, it would take a summer, but,
Oh, no, I meant for the chiller. Like,
Oh, the chiller?
Yeah, yeah, how long will it be down?
you know, if you ordered a chiller now, it would probably take, I don't know, probably 6 weeks to come in. You don't have one just sitting there, you know, they probably build it to spec. So you know, it would probably, for them to pull one out, pull one in, a couple of days,
Okay.
you know. Yeah, they would probably have a crane, pick it up, unbolt everything and set the new one, hook everything back up, so. Those chillers, you know, there's two of them, and
Plan it the best we can.
huh?
Let's plan it the best we can. If it works where it splits over 2 years, fine. If not,
Yeah, I mean, if we want to go this direction, we can have another meeting with Joe Hart and his team and discuss timeline and discuss realistically what it's going to take.
I think that's our next thing. We've got engineering involved now.
Yeah,
I think we go ahead and push the button on engineering and tell them exactly when we want this complete.
yeah,
I would say by late July 27,
oh, yeah,
coming up.
Yeah.
So then we start backing it up.
And, you know, being that this is going to go out for bid, you know, we're not picking, you know, we're not calling the vendors and getting bids. You know, this is going to go out for a bid job, kind of like the other ones, and you're going to have big, you know, mechanical, you know, firms that are used to this type of work. And I know we have a few locally that do this type of, you know, big jobs, so.
okay. All right. What else? What's your next big project?
I'll just go through the list real quick. Baseball netting, you know, that's something we looked at last year, and we did softball. I'm actually looking for good firm quotes now, but I budgeted 68. The quote I got was 58, and I'm actually waiting on an updated cost of that. Baseball and softball scoreboards, you know, those are kind of both end of life. I think one of the boards in baseball had to be sent off to repair because they just don't have the parts anymore, and we're hoping for the best on that. That's $121,395. Tennis court resurface, it's time to do it about every 4 years. East awning, repainting that. If you go by there, it's showing some, I wouldn't say rust, but just some age, and it needs to be classroom LED light upgrade, I put that in there because we actually had it in there last year, we just didn't get to it. If we do move forward with the chiller upgrade, we may pull the reins back because we definitely don't want to go through there and start changing light fixtures and then dealing with water and, tear a light fixture or two up. And the summertime is going to be the time to do it. We don't want people crawling over each other. So, we're probably going to pull the reins back on east, the light upgrade. That don't mean we won't do like the library, but the classrooms, we're definitely going to wait. Bleachers at I-5, that was,
I'm happy to hear that one, Matt.
yeah, I'm actually, got some, getting multiple bids. The problem is, we'll bring it to you guys for approval, we'll send out, but it's gonna take, by the time we get them, built and ordered and shipped, it's gonna be spring break, so it might be a next summer job before we really honestly do it, so. Concrete at I-5, up there in the front, like where the, it ain't a drop-off loop, but it's the very front, it's in pretty bad shape. It would take quite a bit of, dig up and repair if we wanted to keep it asphalt. I called RVP Concretes, they came over, looked at it, and that's where the quote came from. North classroom LED light upgrade, same thing. That's a pretty firm number on material and labor to go in and upgrade the classrooms. We got a lot of the hallway lights done, and they kind of have something very similar, kind of like the high school and the mall hall. They have these lights, they shine up instead of shine down. We tried to retrofit one of those to LED, but the way those lamps are, it's not functional, so we are going to replace those as well. Custodial warehouse operations,
Yeah,
Jim.
you had a question on the ag barn.
Well, I was looking at it now, and I was talking, I went over there, and I don't know if I'm talking about it or not, but I didn't know if they might want to look at covering the whole thing, like the whole
Well, I went,
west side, like the east side.
I went over the other day for something else, and I was looking at that after our conversation. The problem is you got that big roll-up door, and it's a pretty tall roll-up door, so you may have to build one section where the pins are, and then skip the roll-up door and put another one over there where that wash station is. Does that make sense? So it's actually ultimately two instead of just one big one. And really, that wouldn't even be a grave cost. I mean, that's,
I don't see concrete coming or nothing like that, just to
yeah,
Shade.
shade, that's all it is.
yeah. Let's see here. Oh, I-6 concrete, same way. Over there where the front office, where, the SRO, some of the front office, that concrete's that asphalt's in pretty bad shape. We did not seal coat it this year because it is pretty bad. We can look at an option to having the asphalt fixed or repaired. But, for the money, we might could look at doing concrete, so. And that's really the extent of the big ticket items. The rest of them are, all fall under $50,000. We can definitely talk about some of those if you like. The bleacher vinyl side covers. Some of the campuses or stuff's getting stored back behind the bleachers, so when the bleachers are out, there'd be like a vinyl cover on the side where you can't go under the bleachers, you can't get access under there. So kind of a safety thing too. And those are just some good rough numbers. Softball announcer booth, we gotta do some repairs. At one point, the air conditioner leaked down the wall and it's in pretty bad shape, so good estimated cost.
Anybody have any questions on these or comments? Okay, all right, appreciate it. Thank you, Matt.
Yes, sir.
All right, it is 6:10, and
concluded our special board meeting, and we will recess and reconvene at 6:30 for our regular board meeting.